like any kind of degree. And I went to a job fair at UNT, and I met this company called Mural, and they do marketing for McDonald's. And I kept in touch with, I was a sophomore in college at the time, so I kept in touch with them over the year, and they had an internship credit program, and I was able to apply for that, and they gave it to me. So ever since then, they added me to the McDonald's marketing team, and I was doing marketing for McDonald's since then. I think after I interned, they hired me full-time through my senior year of college. So that's why I always stress to kids that are in college to get internships, because they usually turn into like really good jobs. I know you're a testament to that too. But yeah, so I got this internship. They hired me out of college. They hired me my senior year of college, so I worked and I went to school through my last year. And after that, it was like account coordinator, account executive, senior account executive, then account director. And I had to move around the country a lot to get to that point. But in moving around the country, it gave me an opportunity to like meet so many different kind of people in a short span, because from, I think it was 2013 to 2018, I had moved twice already. So I moved from Dallas to Detroit, and then Detroit to Houston, both times doing marketing for McDonald's. And so I got 3 very different aspects of business and people in each city. And that's what really gave me an understanding of different type of people.
So how do you think that you were able to progress so quickly or move up the rankings the way you did?
I think I was persistent, like in my work. I was very detail oriented. I was a team player too. Like marketing is not a job where you can kind of go off on your own and do your own thing. Like usually there's one person that leads something, but everything is a team. Because I'm not the media expert, I'm not the search expert, I'm not all of the people, but at the same time, it takes one idea and everybody rallies behind it. And so I think I just was able to come up with a bunch of different type of ideas that everybody was like, this is dope, and we want to do this, and we believe in it as much as Chanel when she said it, and so then it became everybody's thing. And doing that in Dallas, and then that gave me the opportunity for them to say, hey, go to Detroit and go do that same thing you did in Dallas at another level. I go to Detroit, I do the same thing. Then, things changed in the business, and they were like, you want to go to Houston? We need you in Houston. So I go to Houston and I do the same thing. So it was really revolved around being a team player, playing off of other people's creativity. Like I'm around a lot of creative people. I pay attention to billboards. Like if you ever ride with me in the car, I'm like reading every billboard that comes, even if it's related to something that I think is a message for me. I'm like looking at the creativity of other people in the same field as me. And that's what really kind of fueled me to be able to do that in every place that I went. And that's how I moved up so quickly.
So do you think that when you're coming up with these ideas that it's less about brainstorming and it's more like, oh, you kind of get a spark by looking at something else? Or what do you think?
I think a lot of ideas come from brainstorming, but brainstorming doesn't happen sitting at the office. Like it's times that like the work day is done and I'm in the shower and I'm just like, oh snap, like I got this bomb idea, but I didn't even know that I was brainstorming. It's kind of just like when you're in marketing or you're creative, your mind is constantly thinking of whatever it is that you're working on, and you're constantly kind of enthralled in that, and you can't help but to think about it even on your off time. And so for me, when I was passionate about something, like if we had a meeting and we just sold in this price point, let's just say we sold in this idea and something needs to cost a certain price point, and we really need to push this message. I wouldn't think more so about the product and the price. When I'm in my own creative zone, I'm more so thinking about how do other people want to see this price and this product? How do other people want to engage with the brand? Like, I step outside of the business of it, and I always put myself in the consumer's foot. And I think in order to be a good marketing person or to create unique ideas, you have to be able to step outside of what you know and step into the unknown of what the other people don't know and play with your ideas in their space, because that will create a whole different realm of speaking to people and messaging to people in a way that they didn't even know they wanted to be spoken to.
How do you think, or what are some tips maybe you can provide people who have creative block?
I have definitely had creative block before. I'm trying to think of an instance, but for me, I put myself in the places that make me happy. So I'm really happy around my friends, my family, in just very casual settings. And sometimes if I just step away from work, take a trip, or go invite friends over, or have an event, or go to an event, it kind of takes me out of thinking about what I need to do, and it kind of puts me in a space of people who are also not thinking about work either. And from that, you find people say things or do things that help you come up with a different idea. And that's kind of what I do. I think a lot of times people get so wrapped up into what they need to get done, and it kind of dumbs down the potential of what it could be. And for me, I try to if I feel myself getting stuck on something, even when I was writing papers in college, it's like, oh man, this paper has to be 10 pages. And it's like, I'm on page 5 and I'm already running out of words. And so now you start just creating fluff, and it means nothing, and that's how you end up with a bad grade on the paper. It's the same thing when it translates into real life. You're kind of just constantly thinking, how can I do my job better? You can get stuck at certain points, and you're working on a project for 3 months at a time. Like the things that I created would be 6 months out. So in September, I'm working on something that may not come to fruition until March, April, and it's kind of like, you can get a little dated in what you're doing, but you step away from it, you come back to it, you surround yourself with people who feel your creative passion. You call friends. Like I have many of times called friends that are not in marketing at all, like friends who may be in business or something medical, and I tell them about what I'm working on, and they kind of like, oh, that's cool, and they think of it so much differently than how I think of it because I'm so far in it. And that's really helpful, just talking to people who are not even anywhere near in the space that you're in. Sometimes can also spark your creativity when you feel like it's going.
How do you work under pressure or with strict deadlines?
I think once you learn working under strict pressure and tight deadlines, I think once you learn what needs extra time and what doesn't, you kind of learn how to manage your deadlines and the expectations. For instance, if a billboard has to come down by a certain date, there's no leeway for that to not happen on time. Like it must come down because it has a certain price point that is no longer offered, or something like that may cause consumer friction when somebody sees the message. And that there is no leeway on that. Like you have to meet the deadline, and you have to do whatever it takes to get that done. So I had to learn how to really manage my calendar. Project managers are a huge aspect of creativity, because while you have people who are really creative and coming up with ideas, you have to also have somebody who's driving, like, okay guys, this is realistic or this is unrealistic. And I think it all goes back to teamwork. Like creativity is definitely teamwork. There's not one person who can just do it all by themselves. So managing deadlines, having a project manager, and trusting your project manager, they're just as important as the people who are putting the ideas together. I think another thing when it comes to deadlines and managing your time and trying to be creative under pressure is really just, where do you pull it from? Like what books are you reading? What content are you consuming that can give you these ideas quickly? And that's also another thing that I've had to do, is kind of do some research, like real quick. If I gotta push something out, if I gotta come up with a headline, I gotta come up with write a script or anything like that, or I even have to be able to articulate to the creatives that are designing things, like how this needs to look and feel from the client's perspective. Then it has to come from somewhere, and sometimes that takes a little bit of research, and you got to be able to move quickly on it.
Tell us about a few of your recent projects that you felt most creative.
My most creative projects are definitely going to be with McDonald's. I've pitched, so I work on a different client now, and I've pitched some really cool ideas that weren't necessarily fitting for the team that I pitched them to, and that's another thing. Like, people always won't accept your creativity because creativity is very subjective. And so some ideas I pitched, I saw as like, if they would have taken this, it really would have made some noise. And that's not always going to happen, but the ones that I have executed Probably my biggest one was a project with Revolt TV, where we did a digital media buy. They were going to charge us like $500,000 to run some ads on Revolt TV. And I at the time was like 23, 24. And I was just thinking, $500,000 is a lot, but in media, in marketing dollars, that's nothing for a lot of people. So I was thinking $500,000, we need to get more for that. I was like, we should do a concert or like something, like it's Diddy. He can give us a celebrity to come at least to Dallas and do a concert. But I was thinking really small at the time. So when I went to my supervisor at the time and I was like, we're doing a $500,000 digital media buy with McDonald's, like I think we should try to get some type of in-person experiential, experience out of this. And he's like, okay, well, what are you thinking? That's another thing I loved. I had leadership at the time that I came out of college working on the account that really believed in me. Like they really believed that I could come up with ideas and I could execute them. And they gave me the creative space to do so, and they supported me in those. It was a lot of times like the Revolt TV project that became a 5-market tour. I only worked on the Dallas market, but when I presented that idea to leadership and then to Revolt TV, it was like, okay, let's do this in Philly, New Orleans, Houston, Dallas, Detroit, because those are all of the people who we need to reach, and we're all buying into this thing. So yeah, Chanel has this great idea for Dallas, but let's make it for all 5 of the cities. It turned into a 5-city tour with a whole production, celebrities. Diddy tweeted about it. Like, it was probably my proudest moment because I know that it just came out of me thinking that $500,000 wasn't enough just to run some display ads. And I haven't heard about the display ads to this day, but people talk about the Local Love Tour, and that was just it was really dope for me to feel like I made an impact at 23, 24 and came up with this idea that everybody got to have a really fun time on. The creatives, the people in the other markets who hadn't had an idea like that, it became something that a lot of people wanted to see and do. The other thing is like this mural that we did in Houston. So we just had, sometimes in marketing you get these random extra dollars and you gotta figure out what to do with them. Like somebody's like, oh my goodness, we had a really strong year and we wanna spend more money, like come up with something. And I had just moved to Houston. Like 4 months. And I noticed one thing about Houston was that there was so much public art. Like when you drive through Edo and the graffiti park district, and really every pocket that you go to in Houston is gonna have some murals or some type of public art. And I was like, that's really unique to Houston. I was like, so maybe we should do a mural. Like we were trying to promote the whole like digital ways to order at McDonald's, so on the kiosk, on the mobile app, Uber Eats. And I was like, it would be cool to kind of like do some type of incorporation of Houston and how you digitally order at McDonald's. So I looked up a few artists in Houston, pitched the ideas to the owners, they approved it. We have the mural up and it'll be up for, I don't know how long, years to come. It's in the East Downtown. It's really cool. So things like that have been really fun to work on.